Okay, so then we can move on by setting up the plane and the basic control of the game. So what we should do to begin with is we should go to the actor classes. I'll turn off show categories. I've never managed to work with this, quite a recent addition. Go to pawn and then go to game pawn, and there you have mobile placeable pawn. So I'm going to add this into the world. And you can add it to the world by right clicking somewhere. Yeah, it's off screen. And then you can pick add mobile placeable pawn here. There we go. I'm going to raise it up in the air because it's a plane after all. So I'll raise it up a bit. And that's it. Also, I'm going to add a player start somewhere for the player to spawn. And see where we add that. Let's just add it somewhere far away. You're not actually going to spawn here. This is just to make the player begin somewhere. So I right click, add actor, add player start. And that's really it. You're not actually, again, you're not going to start here. You will simply begin here and you will instantly be teleported to the position of this actor. So it doesn't really matter where you're actually beginning the game. But preferably you should begin the game somewhere far away, out of reach for everything. I moved it all the way over here. Okay, so we have this actor over here. You can take the properties of this and go to the section mobile placeable pawn. Actually, there's nothing there, sorry. Go to section pawn and you see here mesh. So the first thing we want to do is add a mesh to this, because right now there's nothing here. We go to mesh, we go to skeletal mesh component, I believe. Yes, in the skeletal mesh component we have a property called skeletal mesh. So this is the actual mesh we're using. Go to the content browser, meshes group, and we can select the plane. We're looking for the purple one, the skeletal mesh. There's only one skeletal mesh in the entire package, so it's very difficult to miss. It's this one. And a skeletal mesh is basically a mesh with a bone. Static meshes can never have bones. This one has a bone, so it could be animated technically, but it's a plane, so I mean there's not really much to animate anyway. So what I did was I simply took my mesh, added a bone inside, a single bone, you can see bone 01, and exported it as a skeletal mesh instead. Otherwise it's just a very ordinary mesh. Okay, so I select that, add this to skeletal mesh. Again, it's kind of large, I think. We can compare it to the other plane. And a big difference, so I can scale it a bit as well. Using the regular display draw scale, you make it 0.7 or something, still too big. 5, just use something that looks okay. Yeah, 0.4 probably works. Okay. If you press C, so C on the keyboard, or alternatively do show collision, I don't actually know where it is in this menu because I always simply press C. It's supposed to say somewhere show collision here. It's C from collision on the keyboard. If you click that, you can see a little cylinder in the plane. This is the collision cylinder. And what we should do now is match this to the plane. It's obviously much too small right now. So I'm going to increase it a bit. Go to collision, collision component. And over here, also actually one thing about the properties first, before we go on. You might have a different order than me, and that's because I turned off use script defined order. So by default, it actually looks like this. See? But I turned it off. Okay, so we go to collision component, looking for cylinder height and radius. There we go, cylinder height and radius. And we enter a number that seems somewhat fit the plane. I mean, the height seems pretty okay. It's mostly the radius. I mean, it's pretty difficult to match it anyway because it's a cylinder and this is a plane. So I think this looks pretty good because the front and the back matches and the height matches. Maybe even too high. Make the height a bit less maybe. I mean, that's pretty okay. It doesn't have to be very accurate. Okay. I'm gonna raise it up in the sky a bit. And then we would need to set the camera. So I'm going to the actor classes again. I'm looking for a camera actor. I find this right at the top. Again, I turned off show categories. Camera actor. We add it somewhere nearby. Like that. And I'm gonna add it behind the plane. So we have a third person view of my plane. I lowered the camera speed a bit, might have been a bit too high. That seems right. In the properties of the camera, go to the camera actor category and turn off constrain aspect ratio, because otherwise you're going to get black borders on your screen and we don't want that. We might also set the FOV to the field of view to 100, because that might make it a bit faster, might make it feel faster. So that's the reason why I'm doing that. And then we should attach this to the plane. So this is always going to follow the plane. So to do that, again, we go to properties, section attachment, and I can click the little lock button over here. By locking using the lock button, the property window will not update anymore when I select something else. See, I'm selecting the terrain, nothing happens. Selecting the plane, nothing happens. That's good, because now we're able to select the plane, go to base, and click the little green arrow, and then it's going to take over the current selection. You can see mobile placeable pawn _0. That's this one. And then I can turn off lock again, so it's back to normal. If I select the camera, you will see a green line pointing to the plane. So it's now attached to it. If the plane moves, the camera will move. One other thing I should probably set is enable hard attach. This will make sure that the camera really always follows the plane. It makes it more rigid. Okay, save quickly. Then we should make sure the camera starts to roll as soon as the game starts. Because if we were to start this, if we were to play this right now, nothing would happen. So we go to Kismet. Make sure I have my camera selected. I have. Okay, so we right click and we do a new event, level loaded. So as soon as the game starts, you are going to do a new matinee. Let's right click new matinee. I connect loaded and visible to play. And then I double click the matinee to get the matinee editor. We click in the dark gray space on the left, center left here, and we pick a new director group. Okay, let me make sure that the camera is still selected in the viewport. It's not, I believe. So we select it again. And you can see this got divided into two spaces. If you don't see these two spaces, if it looks like. In some of the older UDKs, sometimes this line was all the way at the bottom here, so then you had to drag it back up. So if you don't see this line, it's probably here and you probably have to drag it up. Right, so then we right click in the second space, the bottom dark gray space. And this time we take, you could do a new camera group, you don't really have to, but I guess you can do that. You can also do it manually by going through an empty group. Let's say we want to have a new camera group. Ask you for a name, it doesn't really matter. There we go, very limited space though. Like this. And then we should tell the director to immediately cut to this camera. So this is the director controls which camera is currently active. So we would like to tell the director to use this camera. So to do that, we select the director track. We set the timeline at the beginning, and we press enter. And then you can see new cut, cut to group, cut to my camera. Okay, you can see the color of this line now matches the camera over here. That's correct. That's pretty much it. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have to set up the movement for the camera because you don't really want the camera to move independently anyway. So that looks fine. This would be the view you would be getting in game. So that's good. So I can close this. And then in the properties of my Matinee, we're going to set looping on. So it always starts. And I think we should set rewind on play so that it can loop properly. So the camera can roll all the time, the entire game long. Okay, so if I were to play this, it should work already. A word on playing, you could use, let's see where it is. You could use this button. And the description says, start this level on mobile previewer. I can't really use this because this crashes for me, which I believe is caused by using Windows XP in combination with 2 monitors. So this probably will work for you, but it doesn't for me. So I'm using the regular play and editor window. Okay, it doesn't really matter. It's both kind of the same, except this will preview the graphical features of the iPad and an iPhone, obviously, and this one will not. But that's the only difference. Okay, so I can play this, and the resolution is a bit, let me fit the resolution to it. You can see it works, but you can't really see anything, but it does actually work. See? So this works. I have a camera, I can see my plane, this is my pawn, and the camera sticks to it. The only thing is, as soon as I started this, I can try again, but you're probably not going to see, but in any case, you fall down. See? You don't want to fall down. So we should change the physics states of the plane. And also, actually, we should probably first add a couple of lights because it's really dark and we can't really see anything. So let's quickly do that first. Going to the actor classes and going to light, directional light, and well, you don't really need the dominant directional light. It's not going to work anyway on iOS. So we're simply using a normal directional light, and I add this somewhere in the level. It really doesn't matter where you add it, just anywhere. Again, you right click and you pick add directional light here. Or what I just did is I hold the A key on the keyboard and you simply click somewhere. Okay, so I'll turn this, making sure it matches the angle of the sun over there. Brightness, also word on brightness. If you set lighting on a mobile device, don't make it too bright, because this might work on PC, setting it really bright. But on mobile, you will get greenings and such. And greenings is an old term from the first Unreal Engine, and several other old game engines suffer the same fate. Is when the light gets too bright, it starts becoming green. And it does that because the green information has slightly more data available than the other channels. So this is was an old artifact from older engines, but iOS still has this problem. So don't make lights too bright because it will get greenish and it'll get weird. I usually stick to a maximum of about 2, or maybe at the maximum brightness 3. So I'll take 2, set the color. Probably works. If you wish, you can add a second directional light and turn it in the opposite direction, like that. And give it an opposite color, so bluish. And make it pretty weak. I'm usually doing this to make sure that stuff isn't pitch black. You can see this is a bit blue, right? If this wouldn't have been here, this would have been pitch black, and that's just, the contrast is just way too harsh. So I'm making a subtle light with a blue ambient color pointing in the other direction. I can even use 2 of them. So So this one points to the left a little bit. I could make a second one that points to the right a little bit to make sure that I have several angles with blue light coming in. I think that's quite okay. You can see at the canyon. See, so now we have a bit of a blue ambient going through, which is pretty good. Also, I'm going to set light mass indirect lighting scale. I'm going to set it to like 0.25 or something. This way I'll also get a bit more contrast again. This reduces the bouncing of the light, so I'll turn it down. There we go. And then we should probably rebuild it. I'll rebuild geometry. I won't really have to do that though, because there is no geometry, no brushes in any case. Paths, and then let's do this. I'll turn off use light mass, so it's built a little bit quicker for now. Okay, so it's rebuilt. Also, this button, I forgot to explain this earlier, but we have a button at the top, in the top toolbar, that says emulate mobile features. So I had that enabled. If you press this, it will try to make the viewport match the device better. So you can see it alters the brightness and the contrast a bit. So I always have this enabled because it makes the viewport match the device better. Okay, so you can see it's kind of bright and it's kind of ugly actually. So maybe I should make it a bit darker. It's always an issue to try to match the brightness, try to find a brightness that works. Because Unreal has a tendency of making things too bright or too dark, or just a different colors and brightness on iOS devices. So it's usually quite a challenge. Okay, well, it's still quite ugly, but you can mess with it yourself or look at my original level if you wish. Also, I don't have a texture on the road, so let me very quickly fix that before moving on. There we go. It's the runway material is also on the road, so. Okay, so the plane. So I can play it again, and you can see we have a plane, but it simply drops down. So that's the first thing we want to fix. So we're going to my plane. Not this one. Where's my plane? Okay, my plane is over here. What I can also do is I can press Control 1 and then have a camera bookmark. See, if I now press 1 again on the keyboard, I go back to my plane, which is good. Okay, so we take the properties of this and we go to movement, and here we can see walking physics and physics. You can see it says falling. We don't want to have falling because then we're obviously falling, so we want to change this to flying instead. And that also goes for walking physics. We're flying. And if I were to play now, it works. You can see I just hang in the air. So that's good. I'm going to quickly implement a Kismet fix to make sure that the resolution is always small enough to fit the video, because it's annoying to have to resize it all the time. So you don't have to do this. You don't have to do what I'm about to do, but it's to improve things a little bit. So what I quickly do is I do an action mythical console command. Target is the player. And I got that player one from doing new variable player, or the P on the keyboard if you want. And in here I will type set res, like something small like 800, 600 or whatever. And this will make sure that the resolution is always the same, so I can test better. you do have to make sure that if you do implement this as well, make sure to turn it off before you test this on the device. Because if you try to do a console command like set res on an iPhone, it's gonna crash the iPhone. It's gonna crash the game. So you don't want to run this over there. This is why in my real level, I had a condition is pi. And then I had done it like this. Therefore, when it's play in editor game, yes, run the console command. If it's not play in editor, don't do anything. So, okay. So now we have this. Next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure we can control the plane using the joystick. We can see we have a joystick over here. Actually, we even want to remove these joysticks. There should be a second joystick over here. I'm not very sure why we can't see the second joystick. Might be resolution dependent, I guess. Yeah, it seems to be stuck on the resolution here. Okay, but we have these two default joysticks on the screen. And if you don't see these joysticks to begin with, what you should do is go to View, World Properties, and this is probably a good thing to do anyway. And in here, you have game type, and you can see here the default game type for the game itself, the level itself, and the default game type for the play and editor game. You probably set both of these to a mobile game, for example, Castle game. And let me get this. Or maybe Castle game isn't the best to use because then you have a sound. Perhaps just mobile game is better. Or no, because I think framework game doesn't work, as I believe. Not like this. No, because then you don't have any controls. Either way, the best possible way to go is to make your own game type. But since this is not an Unreal Script video, I'm going to keep it simple. Set it to Castle game. And then in here, I would like to clear the current joysticks, clear the current controls. So to do that, I can go to, I believe it was New Action Mobile, clear input zones. And I also run this as soon as the game starts. And this makes sure we don't have any other joystick. We don't have the default joysticks on screen. So now we have an empty space, an empty screen to start with, which is what we want.